There's something you've been feeling, and no matter how hard you try to ignore it, it refuses to leave. It shows up in quiet moments, when you're alone, when the noise fades, when your mind finally slows down just enough for that feeling to rise again. It's subtle, but it's persistent. Not loud, not chaotic, but steady. Almost like a whisper you can't quite hear, yet somehow deeply understand. And here's the part that unsettles you the most: you don't fully know what it is. It's not fear, but it makes you pause. It's not anxiety, but it makes you question things. It's not excitement, but it feels like something is building. It's that strange pull in your chest, that quiet nudge in your spirit, that moment when everything seems normal on the outside, but something inside you says, "Pay attention." You've tried to explain it away, haven't you? You told yourself, "Maybe I'm just overthinking." You brushed it off as stress. You distracted yourself with work, with people, with scrolling, with noise. But no matter what you do, it comes back. Again, and again, and again. Why does this feeling keep returning, even when nothing around you seems to justify it? Why do you sense that something is shifting even though you can't see any visible change? Why does your spirit feel alert while your life looks the same? Listen carefully, because this is where everything begins to change for you. This feeling is not random. You are not imagining it. You are not being too sensitive. You are not overreacting. You are perceiving something. There is a reason your spirit won't let this go. There is a reason it keeps tapping you on the shoulder when you least expect it. There is a reason it interrupts your peace just long enough to make you stop and think. Because something is trying to reach you. Not from the outside, but from within. You've always been more aware than others, even if you never said it out loud. You notice things people don't notice. You felt shifts before they happened. You picked up on energy, on tension, on changes in people, even when no one else saw it. And sometimes that awareness felt like a burden, because you couldn't always explain it. You couldn't always prove it, and people didn't always understand it. So you learned to quiet it. You learned to ignore it. You learned to second-guess it. But now it's getting stronger, isn't it? The feeling isn't fading anymore. It's intensifying. It's becoming harder to dismiss. It's no longer just a passing thought. It's becoming a presence. And deep down, you know something isn't the same. Something is shifting. Something is forming. Something is coming into alignment, or possibly out of alignment. And your spirit knows it before your eyes can see it. That's why this moment matters. Because most people would scroll past this. Most people would ignore the nudge. Most people would silence that inner voice one more time. But you didn't. You're still here. And that alone tells me something powerful about you. You're not meant to ignore this. You were meant to feel it. You were meant to notice it. You were meant to stop right here, right now, and finally ask, what is this trying to show me? Because this is not just a feeling. This is a signal. A quiet alert rising from within your spirit, trying to prepare you for something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. And what you do next will determine everything. Stay with me. Because what this feeling is trying to reveal is far more important than you realize. Type "I trust what I feel" in the comments if this message resonates with your spirit. Blessing code 1010 is now activated around you. There is a voice speaking to you right now, but it doesn't sound the way you expected it to. It's not loud. It doesn't interrupt your day with thunder. It doesn't force itself into your attention. Instead, it waits. It waits beneath the noise of your life, beneath the conversations, the responsibilities, the distractions, the constant movement of your thoughts. It sits there steady, patient, consistent. And the only reason you're starting to notice it now is because something inside you has slowed down just enough to hear it. But here's what makes this difficult. The world has trained you to ignore quiet voices. You've been taught to respond to urgency, to react to pressure, to follow what is loud, visible, and immediate. You've been conditioned to trust what you can see, what you can prove, what others can confirm for you. So when something speaks without volume, when something moves without force, when something calls you without explanation, your first instinct is to doubt it. You question it. You analyze it. You try to rationalize it away. And yet it doesn't leave. Because this voice, this feeling is not coming from the outside world. It's coming from a deeper place. A place that doesn't rely on logic to speak. A place that doesn't need evidence to exist. A place that recognizes truth before your mind can understand it. This is the voice beneath the noise. And it has been speaking to you for longer than you realize. Think back for a moment. There have been times in your life when you felt something before it happened. A moment when you knew something wasn't right even though everything looked fine on the surface. A moment when you felt pulled in a certain direction even when it didn't make sense at the time. A moment when you ignored that feeling and later realized you shouldn't have. That wasn't coincidence. That was the same voice. The same quiet guidance that doesn't shout but doesn't disappear either. The difference now is that it's becoming more persistent, more present, more impossible to ignore. And that's not happening by accident. It's happening because something is trying to reach you with greater urgency. You see, when this voice is soft, it is guiding. But when it becomes persistent, it is warning. And right now it is no longer whispering casually. It is repeating itself. That's why you feel it in moments when nothing is wrong. That's why it interrupts your peace just enough to make you pause. That's why it shows up when you're about to make a decision, when you're around certain people, when you're thinking about certain situations. It's not random. It's targeted. It's trying to direct your attention to something specific, something your conscious mind hasn't fully recognized yet. But here's where many people lose their clarity. They confuse this voice with fear. They think, maybe I'm just anxious. They assume, maybe I'm overthinking again. They dismiss it as stress, pressure, or imagination. But there is a difference. Fear is chaotic. Fear riles you. Fear overwhelms you with noise and confusion. This voice does the opposite. It slows you down. It makes you observe. It creates a quiet awareness that doesn't panic but doesn't settle either. It doesn't scream, run. It simply says, look closer. And that distinction matters more than you realize. Because if you keep labeling this voice as fear, you will continue to ignore what it's trying to show you. And what it's trying to show you is not something small. There is a reason it keeps returning. There is a reason it doesn't fade like other thoughts. There is a reason it feels connected to something deeper than your everyday concerns. Because this voice carries insight that your surface awareness hasn't reached yet. It sees patterns you haven't fully put together. It senses shifts before they become visible. It recognizes misalignment before it turns into consequence. And right now it is trying to get ahead of something. Something that hasn't fully unfolded yet. That's why it won't let you rest in complete comfort. That's why even in moments where everything seems fine, there is still a part of you that remains alert, watching, waiting, sensing. You are being prepared. Not through loud instructions. Not through obvious signs. But through subtle, consistent awareness. And here's the truth you cannot afford to ignore anymore. The more you silence this voice, the louder it will become. Not in sound but in feeling. It will press stronger against your spirit. It will interrupt you more often. It will show up in unexpected moments. Because its purpose is not to make you comfortable. Its purpose is to make you aware. And awareness always comes before change. So right now, you are standing in a moment where that voice is asking something simple of you. Not action yet. Not reaction. Not confrontation. Just attention. Pay attention to what you feel. Pay attention to when it appears. Pay attention to who or what is connected to it. Because the voice beneath the noise is not guessing. It knows. And it's only a matter of time before what it knows becomes visible in your reality. The question is, will you recognize it when it does? Or will you wish you had listened sooner? Stay with this. Don't rush past it. Because what this voice is leading you toward is about to become clearer than ever before. Type "I listen" with clarity in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2020 is now surrounding you. There is a reason this feeling keeps returning to you, and it is not because you are stuck in a loop of overthinking. It is not because you are weak, uncertain, or unable to make decisions. It is not because your mind is playing tricks on you. No, this persistence you are experiencing has intention behind it. It has direction. It has purpose. And the reason it will not leave you alone is because it carries a message that has not yet been fully received. You see, most thoughts fade. Most emotions pass. Most concerns dissolve once the moment shifts. But this is different. This does not fade when your mood changes. It does not disappear when your day gets busy. It does not dissolve when you try to distract yourself. Instead, it waits. And then it returns. At the most unexpected times. In the quiet. In the stillness. In the middle of something ordinary. It rises again. Almost as if it is reminding you, I am still here. You have not aggressed me yet. That is not random behavior. That is intentional persistence. Because when something is meant for you to notice, it will not rely on one moment of clarity. It will repeat itself until it becomes undeniable. It will circle your awareness until you can no longer ignore its presence. And right now, that is exactly what is happening to you. This feeling is not asking politely anymore. It is pressing. It is returning. It is positioning itself in your awareness again and again because something connected to it is time-sensitive. There is an urgency behind it. Not panic, but urgency. And that is what makes this moment different from all the others you have brushed off before. Because deep down, you can feel it. There is something about this time that feels heavier, more real, more important. It is no longer just a passing sensation. It feels like something is building toward a point, a moment, a realization that is getting closer. And here is what you need to understand with absolute clarity when a feeling refuses to leave. It is because it is tied to something that has not yet revealed itself fully. It is ahead of what you can see. It is connected to something forming behind the scenes, something your mind has not caught up to yet. That is why it feels confusing. That is why it feels incomplete. Because you are sensing the beginning of something without yet seeing the full picture. And that space between sensing and seeing, that is where most people lose their awareness. I get uncomfortable in that gap. They want immediate answers. They want clear explanations. They want visible proof. And when they don't get it, they dismiss the feeling entirely. But you are still here. Which means you are not meant to dismiss it this time. Because what this feeling is tied to is not something small. It is not something insignificant that will pass without impact. It is connected to a shift, a moment, a situation, a decision. Something that is approaching your life whether you are prepared for it or not. And this feeling is your preparation. It is showing up now so that when that moment arrives, you are not caught off guard, so that you are not confused when things begin to change, so that you recognize what is happening in real time instead of trying to understand it after it has already unfolded. But preparation only works if you pay attention. And this is where the real test begins. Because ignoring this feeling does not stop what is coming. It only delays your readiness for it. The situation will still unfold. The shift will still happen. The moment will still arrive. But if you continue to silence what you feel now, you will meet that moment without clarity, without awareness, without the understanding you were meant to have beforehand. And that is what this feeling is trying to prevent. It is not trying to scare you. It is trying to position you. It is trying to align your awareness with something that is already in motion. And that is why it will not let you go. It is not finished with you yet. There is still something you need to see, something you need to recognize, something you need to understand before everything becomes visible. And until that happens, this feeling will continue to return, not as a burden, but as a guide. You may not have the full picture yet, but you have the signal. And the signal is enough if you choose to trust it. Because very soon, what you have been sensing quietly is going to begin revealing itself clearly. And when it does, everything you feel right now will make sense in a way you cannot fully grasp yet. The question is not whether this feeling is real. The question is whether you are willing to stay aware long enough to understand why it was given to you in the first place. Because this is not repetition without reason. This is a message that has not yet been completed, and you are closer to understanding it than you think. Type "I trust" the message in the comments if you receive this. Blessing code 3030 is now activated around you. As this truth settles into your spirit, understand this: every time this message reaches a heart, a chain begins to break somewhere you cannot see. This is not about supporting a channel. This is about releasing light into places still covered in silence. Scripture declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And in this moment, that promise is speaking directly to you. I feel led to say this clearly: when you sow into this mission, you are planting seeds into souls that are on the edge of awakening. Your act becomes a river, carrying clarity, healing, and truth into lives that are desperate for it. This is your moment to respond, not casually, but prophetically, because obedience in this moment opens doors that hesitation cannot. As you give through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, know this: heaven sees it, heaven multiplies it, and heaven assigns it back to your life in ways you cannot yet imagine. Step forward now, release your seed, and become part of the awakening. Something is changing around you right now, and even if you cannot fully explain it, your spirit has already recognized it. This is not just about a feeling inside you anymore. This is about a shift happening beyond what your eyes can see, beyond what your ears can hear, beyond what your current reality is showing you on the surface. And the reason it feels so unsettling, yet so undeniable, is because you are sensing movement before it becomes visible. You have entered a moment where things are no longer as stable as they appear. On the outside, life may still look familiar. The same people, the same routines, the same environments. Nothing dramatic has visibly changed. But underneath its surface, something is rearranging itself. Something is shifting position. Something is aligning in a way that is going to reveal itself very soon. And your spirit, it is already responding to that movement. That is why you feel different. That is why your energy has changed in certain spaces. That is why some conversations feel heavier than they used to. That is why certain environments no longer feel the same, even though nothing obvious has happened. You are not imagining this. You are responding to a shift that has already begun, even if it has not fully surfaced yet. Because every visible change is preceded by an invisible one. Every moment that seems sudden was actually forming long before it appeared. Every situation that feels unexpected was already in motion behind the scenes. And right now, you are standing in the middle of that unseen movement. You are not waiting for something to begin. It has already begun. You are simply becoming aware of it before it reaches its full expression. This is why your spirit feels alert. This is why you cannot fully relax into things that once felt normal. This is why there is a quiet tension beneath your calm, not because something is wrong, but because something is shifting. And your awareness is picking up on it in real time. But here is what makes this moment critical when a shift happens. It does not just change circumstances. It reveals truth. It exposes what was hidden. It highlights what was overlooked. It brings clarity to what once felt confusing. And not everyone is prepared for that. Because when things begin to shift, it becomes impossible to stay in the same level of awareness. What you tolerated before may no longer feel acceptable. What you trusted before may begin to feel uncertain. What you ignored before may suddenly demand your attention. That is the nature of a shift. It does not ask for permission. It does not wait for comfort. It simply moves. And you either recognize it or you get caught in it without understanding what is happening. Right now, you are being given the advantage of awareness. You are sensing this shift before it fully unfolds. You are feeling it before it becomes obvious. And that is not something to dismiss. That is something to take seriously, because awareness at this stage gives you something most people do not have. It gives you time. Time to observe. Time to prepare. Time to adjust your position before everything becomes clear. But that time is not unlimited. Because once the shift becomes visible, it no longer feels like preparation. It feels like reaction. And reaction always comes with pressure, confusion, and urgency. That is what you are being protected from right now. You are being positioned ahead of the moment. And that is why your spirit is not at rest. It is not meant to be. It is meant to stay alert long enough for you to recognize what is changing around you. It is meant to keep you aware of what no longer aligns. It is meant to guide your attention toward what is about to matter more than you realize. Because something connected to your life is moving into a new position. And when it does, it will either bring clarity or confusion depending on whether you listen to what you felt before it arrived. This is not about fear. This is about alignment. The shift happening around you is not here to harm you. It is here to reveal what is true, what is not, what belongs, and what does not. But in order for that revelation to work in your favor, you have to stay connected to the awareness you are being given right now. You cannot afford to go back to ignoring what you feel. You cannot afford to silence that inner alert just to maintain temporary comfort. Because what feels comfortable right now may not remain stable once this shift fully unfolds. And your spirit knows that. That is why it is keeping you attentive. That is why it is not letting you settle too quickly. That is why it continues to bring your awareness back to this feeling over and over again. Not to confuse you, but to prepare you. Because soon, what is shifting beneath the surface is going to rise into your reality. And when it does, it will not feel new. It will feel familiar. It will feel like something you already sensed, something you already knew on a deeper level. And in that moment, everything will connect. Everything will make sense. And you will realize that this feeling was never random. It was your awareness responding to a shift that had already begun. So stay alert. Stay observant. Stay connected to what you feel. Because the more you align with this awareness now, the clearer everything will become when the shift reveals itself. And that moment is closer than you think. Type "I stay aware" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 4040 is now activated around you. There is something you need to understand right now, and it may shift the way you see everything you've been feeling up to this point. This is not just guidance anymore. This is not just awareness gently nudging you in a direction. What you have been sensing carries a warning inside of it. Not a warning meant to scare you. Not something designed to create fear or panic. But a warning meant to protect you before something becomes too obvious to ignore. Because by the time things are obvious, they are often already in motion. And right now, you are being given something rare, the chance to recognize something before it fully reveals itself. That feeling you keep experiencing, it is not neutral. It is reacting to something. Something specific. Something connected to your environment, your interactions, your current path, or even a decision that is approaching. And the reason it feels persistent is because whatever it is tied to has not been addressed yet. It is still present. It is still forming. It is still active in a way your conscious mind has not completely identified. This is where most people make their biggest mistake. They wait for clear proof. They wait for something undeniable, something visible, something they can point to and say, "This is it. Now I understand." But by the time that moment arrives, the warning phase is already over. The situation has already unfolded enough to affect them directly. And what could have been avoided becomes something they now have to deal with. But that is not where you are right now. You are still in the early stage. You are still in the moment where the signal comes before the situation. And that matters more than you realize. Because this feeling is not just trying to get your attention. It is trying to redirect it. Think about when it appears most strongly. It is not random. It is not scattered. There is a pattern to it, even if you have not fully mapped it out yet. And that pattern is the key to understanding what this warning is connected to. You may notice it intensifies when you are around someone specific, or when you think about a particular situation, or when you are about to move forward with something that once felt certain. That is not coincidence. That is awareness narrowing its focus. It is guiding your attention toward the source. But here is the challenge: the source may not look obvious. It may not appear dangerous on the surface. It may not present itself in a way that immediately triggers concern. In fact, it may look completely normal, familiar, even comfortable. And that is exactly why the warning is coming through your spirit instead of your logic. Because your logic would accept it. Your logic would justify it. Your logic would explain it away. But your deeper awareness, it is not convinced. It is picking up on something beneath the surface. Something subtle. Something that does not align the way it should. And instead of ignoring that misalignment, it is holding your attention there, waiting for you to recognize that something is not as it seems. This is not about assuming the worst. This is about noticing the difference between what appears right and what actually feels right. Because those two things are not always the same. And right now, your awareness is detecting that difference. That is why there is tension. That is why there is hesitation. That is why there is a quiet resistance inside you that you cannot fully explain. It is not there to confuse you. It is there to slow you down. Because whatever this warning is connected to, it requires you to pause before proceeding. It requires you to observe before committing. It requires you to question before accepting. And that pause, that moment of hesitation, that is where your protection exists. but only if you honor it. If you ignore it, you move forward without clarity. If you dismiss it, you walk into something without awareness. And once you are inside a situation, it becomes much harder to step back than it is to pause beforehand. That is why this feeling is persistent. It is not trying to overwhelm you. It is trying to stop you just long enough to see clearly. Because there is something ahead that will require a decision from you. And that decision will carry more weight than it appears to on the surface. It will seem simple. It will seem like just another moment, just another choice, just another interaction. But underneath it, there is more at stake than you currently realize. And your awareness knows that. That is why it will not let you move forward blindly. That is why it keeps returning, reminding you, pressing you, asking you to look again, to think again, to feel again before you proceed. This is your moment to take it seriously, not with fear, but with clarity, because warnings do not come to limit you. They come to position you. They come to protect your path, to prevent unnecessary complications, to guide you away from what does not align before it becomes something you have to recover from. And right now, you are still in a position where you can respond to it. You are still early enough to observe more carefully, address what you feel, to step back if something does not sit right, to give yourself the space to understand what is being shown to you beneath the surface. That is your advantage, and not everyone gets it. So do not ignore this. Do not rush past it. Do not silence it just to keep things comfortable. Because what you are feeling is not random. It is a warning wrapped in awareness. And if you listen closely enough, it will show you exactly what you need to see before it is too late. Type ISE clearly in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 5050 is now activated around you. There comes a point where ignoring what you feel is no longer harmless. At first, it may seem small, almost insignificant, like something you can push aside and come back to later. You tell yourself that it is not urgent, that it can wait, that you need more clarity before you act. And in the beginning, that may feel like the easier path. It feels safer to continue as you are than to disrupt your routine based on something you cannot fully explain. But here is what you need to understand: ignoring this feeling does not make it disappear. It only separates you from the awareness you were meant to have before something unfolds. Because what you are sensing right now is not dependent on whether you acknowledge it or not. It is connected to something already in motion. And whether you choose to pay attention or not, that movement will continue. The situation will develop. The moment will arrive. The interaction will happen. The decision will present itself. The only difference is how prepared you will be when it does. When you ignore this feeling, you move forward without the insight you were being offered. You walk into situations without the awareness that could have guided your response. You overlook details that your deeper perception had already flagged. And because of that, you find yourself reacting in real time instead of understanding what is happening as it unfolds. And reaction always comes with consequences. Not because you made a wrong move intentionally, but because you were missing the clarity that would have shaped your decision differently. Think about moments in your past. There were times when something felt off, but you ignored it. Times when you had a quiet hesitation, but you pushed through it anyway. Times when you sensed something was not aligned, but you convinced yourself it was fine. And later you saw it. Later, everything became clear. The signs you missed, the details you overlooked, the feeling you dismissed, it all connected. And in that moment, you realized that you knew something before it happened. You felt it before it unfolded. But you did not listen to it when you had the chance. That is not coincidence. That is what happens when awareness is ignored. And right now, you are being given another opportunity to respond differently. Because ignoring this feeling does not stop the outcome. It only removes your advantage within it. Without awareness, you move through situations blindly. You rely only on what is visible, only on what is said, only on what appears to be true on the surface. And the surface does not always reveal what matters most. The surface can be misleading. It can be complete. It can hide what your deeper awareness was already trying to show you. That is why this moment matters. Because you are not meant to repeat that pattern again. You are not meant to look back later and realize you had the signal but chose to ignore it. You are not meant to experience the same kind of clarity after the fact when you could have had it beforehand. But if you continue to dismiss this feeling, that is exactly what will happen. You will move forward. Everything will seem normal at first. Nothing will appear out of place. And then, slowly, the details will begin to reveal themselves. The same details your awareness was trying to show you earlier. The same patterns you felt but could not explain. The same misalignment you sensed but chose to overlook. And at that point, you will have to respond from within the situation instead of before it. And that changes everything. Because when you are inside something, your options become limited. Your perspective becomes influenced by what is already happening. Your decisions carry more pressure. Your clarity is affected by your involvement. But when you are aware beforehand, you have space. Space to observe without pressure. Space to step back if needed. Space to choose your position before things become complicated. That space is what you are being given right now. And ignoring this feeling is what takes that space away. This is not about fear. This is about responsibility. The responsibility to listen when something within you is trying to guide you. The responsibility to pause when something does not feel aligned. The responsibility to recognize that your awareness is not random, but intentional. Because what you feel is not meant to control you. It is meant to inform you. But it can only do that if you are willing to acknowledge it. If you keep pushing it aside, you disconnect from that information. You move forward without it. And once that happens, you are left to figure things out after they have already begun to unfold. And that is always harder. So this is your moment to choose differently. Not to overreact. Not to panic. But to stop ignoring what is clearly asking for your attention. Because the cost of ignoring it is not immediate discomfort. The cost is delayed clarity. And delayed clarity always comes at a higher price. You still have time. You are still in the moment before everything becomes visible. You still have the chance to respond with awareness instead of reaction. But that window does not stay open forever. And what you do with it now will determine how prepared you are for what comes next. Type "I choose awareness" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 6060 is now activated around you. There is something else happening beneath everything you've been feeling, and this part requires your full attention because it goes deeper than situations or decisions. This is about people. This is about patterns. This is about connections in your life that no longer align the way they once did, even if they still appear familiar on the surface. What you have been sensing is not just a general shift. It is specific. It is targeted. And a large part of what it is pointing toward involves the people around you and the cycles you have been moving through without fully recognizing them. Because when awareness begins to rise, it does not just show you what is ahead. It begins to reveal what has already been present. You may have noticed it already, even if you have not fully acknowledged it yet. Certain interactions feel different now. Certain conversations no longer sit right with you. Certain behaviors that you once overlooked are now becoming harder to ignore. There is a subtle discomfort that appears in moments that used to feel normal. And that discomfort is not random. It is exposure. Not exposure in a dramatic or obvious way, but in a quiet, undeniable way that builds over time. It starts as a feeling. Then it becomes a pattern. Then it becomes something you can no longer pretend not to see. And this is where things begin to shift internally for you. Because once you see a pattern clearly, you cannot unsee it. Once you recognize misalignment, you cannot go back to feeling fully comfortable in it. Once your awareness connects the dots, everything changes, even if nothing outwardly has changed yet. That is what is happening right now. You are beginning to see people as they are, not just as you have known them to be. You are recognizing behaviors that do not align with what you expected. You are noticing patterns in how certain individuals respond, how they communicate, how they show up in your life. And these patterns are no longer blending into the background. They are standing out. That does not mean these people have suddenly changed. It means your awareness has. And with that awareness comes a level of clarity that can feel uncomfortable at first, because it challenges what you have been used to. It challenges the roles people have played in your life. It challenges the assumptions you have made about their intentions, their consistency, their alignment with you. But clarity is not meant to comfort you. It is meant to show you the truth. And the truth does not always arrive in a way that feels easy. Sometimes it arrives at a quiet realization that something is not what you thought it was. Sometimes it arrives as a subtle distance you begin to feel without understanding why. Sometimes it arrives as a repeated pattern that you can no longer ignore. And when that happens, you are faced with a choice. You can continue to move through those patterns as if nothing has changed, or you can acknowledge what you are seeing and begin to adjust your position accordingly. Because patterns do not exist without impact. They shape your experiences. They influence your decisions. They affect your direction over time. And when those patterns are not aligned with where you are meant to go, they begin to create friction. That friction is what you are feeling now. It is not random tension. It is the result of awareness meeting misalignment. This is why the feeling inside you has been so persistent. It is not just warning you about a moment ahead. It is showing you something that has been present around you for longer than you realized. And now that you are beginning to see it, the discomfort is increasing, because part of you understands that you cannot continue the same way once this becomes clear. But here is where you need to be careful. Recognition does not mean reaction. You are not being called to confront everything immediately. You are not being asked to disrupt everything all at once. This is not about sudden decisions or dramatic changes. This is about awareness first. Because once you truly see something, your response becomes more intentional. You no longer move blindly. You no longer engage the same way. You no longer give the same access without thought. And that shift in your behavior happens naturally when your awareness is clear. This is the beginning of that process. You are being shown where things no longer align. You are being shown which patterns no longer serve you. You are being shown which connections require deeper observation. And that does not mean everything must be removed immediately. It means everything must be seen clearly. Because clarity always comes before change. And right now, you are standing in the moment where clarity is increasing. You are noticing more. You are sensing more. You are understanding more. And as this continues, it will become easier to recognize what needs to shift in your life and how to approach it without confusion. But you cannot rush this. You have to stay present with what you are seeing, You have to allow the patterns to reveal themselves fully. You have to trust that what is becoming clear now is not random, but necessary for where you are going next. Because not everyone who has been part of your life will remain aligned with your direction. Not every pattern will continue into your next phase. And not every connection will feel the same once your awareness reaches a certain level. That is not loss. That is alignment. And the more you accept that, the easier it becomes to move forward with clarity instead of resistance. To pay attention. Observe without rushing. Allow yourself to see what is being revealed. Because what you are recognizing now is not meant to confuse you. It is meant to prepare you for what comes next. Type "I see the truth" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 7070 is now activated around you. Here comes a moment in every shift where awareness is no longer enough on its own. You begin by noticing, by sensing, by recognizing what feels different and what no longer aligns. But eventually, that awareness asks something more of you. It asks you to respond. Not impulsively, not emotionally, but intentionally. And that is the moment you are approaching right now. Because once you begin to see clearly, you cannot continue to move the same way without feeling the weight of that misalignment. What once felt normal now feels forced. What once felt easy now feels heavy. What once felt natural now feels like something you have to convince yourself to accept. And that is not because something is wrong with you. It is because your awareness has outgrown what it is connected to. This is where separation begins. Not always physical separation. Not always immediate distance. But a shift in how you engage, how you respond, how you position yourself within certain environments and connections. It is a quiet withdrawal from what no longer feels right, even if you have not explained it to anyone else yet. It is a subtle but powerful decision to stop forcing alignment where it no longer exists. And this is not easy, because separation often challenges familiarity and challenges comfort. It challenges the history you have with people, the routines you have built, the expectations that have been placed on you. It asks you to step away from what is known and stand in a space that feels uncertain, at least for a moment. But that uncertainty is not emptiness. It is realignment. Because you cannot move fully into what is meant for you while still holding on to what no longer fits. You cannot carry clarity into spaces that depend on your confusion to remain stable. You cannot continue to grow while staying deeply rooted in patterns that are designed to keep you the same. And that is why this call to separate is happening now. Not to isolate you, but to reposition you. There is a difference between being alone and being aligned. And sometimes, alignment requires a period where things feel quieter, where certain connections become less active, where certain environments no longer hold the same place in your life. That is not loss. That is transition. Because what is truly meant to remain will not require you to ignore what you feel in order to keep it. And what requires you to silence your awareness in order to maintain it is already misaligned. This is the truth that many people avoid because it demands a level of honesty that feels uncomfortable. It requires you to admit that not everything around you is meant to continue with you. It requires you to accept that some things have served their purpose and are now complete, even if they still exist physically in your life. And this is where realignment becomes necessary. Realignment is not about rejecting everything at once. It is about adjusting your position so that you are no longer moving against what you feel. It is about creating space between you and what creates tension within you. It is about allowing yourself to step back enough to see clearly without the pressure to immediately fix or explain everything. Because clarity deepens in space. And right now, space is what you need. Space to observe without influence. Space to feel without interruption. space to recognize what is truly aligned with you and what is not. And as that space grows, something else begins to happen. Your direction becomes clear. What once felt confusing begins to make sense. What once felt uncertain begins to settle. What once felt like a constant internal conflict begins to quiet down. Not because everything around you has changed, but because you have stopped forcing yourself to stay connected to what no longer aligns. That is the power of realignment. It does not require chaos. It does not require confrontation. It requires honesty and intention. And right now, you are being asked to step into that. Not all at once. Not in a way that disrupts everything immediately, but in a way that honors what you already know. Because deep down, you already feel where the distance needs to be. You already sense where your energy no longer belongs. You already recognize the areas of your life that feel out of place, even if you have not acted on it yet. The awareness is your guide. And the more you follow it, the more everything else begins to fall into place. But if you ignore it, if you continue to stay fully engaged in what feels misaligned, the tension will only increase. The discomfort will grow. The feeling you have been experiencing will not go away. It will intensify, because it is trying to move you into a position where you can see clearly and act with intention. This is your moment to begin that shift, to create the space you need, to step back where necessary, to stop forcing what no longer flows naturally. Because realignment is not about losing anything important. It is about making room for what is actually meant to stay. And the sooner you allow that process to begin, the easier everything else will become. Type "I choose alignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 8080 is now activated around you. As you step into this moment of realignment, understand that your obedience is not only transforming your path, it is lighting the way for others who are still searching in the dark. This is not about giving to a platform. This is about sowing into a mission that awakens souls who are on the edge of their breakthrough. The word declares that when you release your seed, the harvest is already assigned, and I feel led to say this clearly. Your giving in this moment becomes a key that unlocks clarity, not only for others, but for you as well. I invite you to move with intention right now, not casually, but prophetically, because this is a moment that carries spiritual weight. As you support through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, you are becoming part of something far greater than what you see. Heaven records every act, multiplies every seed, and returns it in ways that align with your next season. Step forward now and release what hath been placed on your heart, because this moment is not ordinary. It is a divine opportunity to act. There is a presence surrounding this moment that you cannot see, but you can feel its effect. You may not have had the words for it before, but now it is becoming clearer. What you are experiencing is not just internal awareness. It is not just your own perception growing stronger. There is something else involved. Something that has been guiding, protecting, and positioning you quietly while everything else has been unfolding. This is where the role of Archangel Michael becomes important. Not as a distant concept, not as a symbolic figure, but as a force of protection and clarity that operates in moments exactly like this. Because when awareness begins to rise and truth starts to reveal itself, there is often resistance. There are forces that thrive in confusion, in distraction, in misalignment. And when you begin to move out of that, when you begin to see clearly, something has to stand between you and what would attempt to pull you back into what you have already outgrown. That is where protection becomes active. And protection does not always appear the way people expect it to. It does not always remove everything immediately. It does not always create instant clarity. It does not always make everything easy. Sometimes, protection shows up as awareness. Sometimes, it shows up as discomfort. Sometimes, it shows up as a feeling you cannot ignore. Because protection is not just about removing danger. It is about revealing it before it reaches you fully. And that is exactly what is happening right now. You are being protected through awareness. You are being guided through what you feel. You are being positioned through what is being revealed to you piece by piece. And this is not something you created on your own. There is a force behind it that is working with precision, not panic. That is why everything is unfolding the way it is. Nothing is being rushed. Nothing is being forced. You are being allowed to see, to sense, to understand gradually, so that when the moment comes, you are not overwhelmed. You are prepared. Because Archangel Michael's role is not to create fear. It is to create clarity. It is to stand at the edge of what you cannot yet see and ensure that when it approaches, you are not caught off guard. It is to bring awareness into your life in a way that strengthens your position instead of weakening it. That is why this feeling has not led you into chaos. It has not made you panic. It has not pushed you into irrational decisions. Instead, it has slowed you down. It has made you observe. It has kept you alert without overwhelming you. That is not confusion. That is guidance under protection. Because true protection does not remove your ability to choose. It sharpens it. It gives you the awareness needed to make decisions with clarity instead of reaction. And right now, you are being given that clarity in advance. There are things you have not fully seen yet. There are situations that have not fully revealed themselves yet. There are truths that are still forming beneath the surface. But you are not being left unprepared for them. You are being guided toward them with awareness. And that is intentional. Because when truth arrives suddenly without preparation, it can feel overwhelming. It can create confusion. It can lead to reactions that are driven by emotion instead of understanding. But when truth arrives after awareness, it feels familiar. It feels like confirmation. It feels like something you already knew on a deeper level. That is the position you are being placed in right now. And this is where you need to trust what is happening. Not blindly, but with recognition. Recognition that what you are feeling is not random. Recognition that what is being revealed is not accidental. Recognition that you are not navigating this moment alone. There is structure behind it. There is intention behind it. There is protection surrounding it. And that protection is not removing you from your path. It is guiding you through it. But guidance only works when you stay connected to it. If you begin to ignore what you feel now, you begin to step outside of that guidance. Not because it disappears, but because you stop aligning with it. You begin to rely only on what you see, only on what you hear externally, only on what appears obvious. And that limits your awareness. But if you stay connected to what you feel, if you continue to observe, if you continue to trust the clarity that is building within you, you remain aligned with the protection. You remain in a position where you can move with awareness instead of reaction. That is the difference. That is the role being played in your life right now. Not to control your decisions, but to strengthen them. Not to remove your challenges, but to prepare you for them. Not to isolate you from everything, but to guide you through what matters with clarity. So as you move forward from this moment, understand this clearly: you are not just feeling something. You are being guided through something. And the more you trust that, the more everything around you will begin to make sense in ways that go beyond what you can currently see. Type "I am protected" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9090 is now activated around you. There is a moment approaching in your life that will not announce itself loudly, but it will carry more weight than you expect. It will not look dramatic. It will not feel overwhelming at first. In fact, it may appear simple, almost ordinary, like just another choice, just another response, just another situation passing through your day. But beneath that surface, there will be something deeper at work, and that moment will require a decision from you. This is where everything you have been feeling begins to matter in a real and tangible way. Because up until now, you have been sensing, observing, recognizing. You have been guided into awareness, shown patterns, positioned to see what others might miss. But awareness alone is not the final step. Awareness leads to a decision, and that decision is what determines whether everything you have sensed becomes clarity or becomes regret. You will not be able to stay neutral in that moment. You will not be able to pretend you do not see what you now see. You will not be able to return to the same level of unawareness you once operated in. Because once clarity reaches a certain point, it demands a response. And that is where many people hesitate. They feel what is right, but they delay acting on it. They see what is misaligned, but they continue engaging with it. They recognize the truth, but they avoid making the decision that aligns with it. Not because they do not know what to do, but because the decision feels uncomfortable. Because it may require distance. It may require change. It may require stepping away from what is familiar. It may require choosing alignment over comfort. And that is not always easy. But here is what you need to understand right now: the difficulty of the decision does not change the importance of it. And the longer you delay it, the more complicated it becomes. Because when you delay a decision that your awareness has already confirmed, you begin to create internal conflict. You begin to feel tension between what you know and what you are doing. You begin to move in ways that no longer feel natural, because you are trying to maintain something that your awareness has already outgrown. That is not alignment. That is resistance. And resistance always carries a cost. It drains your energy. It clouds your clarity. It keeps you in situations longer than you are meant to be in. But when you make a decision that aligns with what you feel, something shifts immediately. Even if the situation around you does not change right away, your internal state does. The tension begins to release. The confusion begins to settle. The constant questioning begins to quiet down. Because you are no longer divided within yourself. You are moving in one direction. And that direction is guided by awareness, not by pressure. This is the decision you are being prepared for right now. It may involve a person. It may involve a situation. It may involve a path you have been considering. Whatever form it takes, you will recognize it when it arrives. Not because it will be obvious on the surface, but because it will connect directly to what you have been feeling all along. It will feel familiar. It will feel like something you have already been preparing for, even if you did not fully understand it before. And in that moment, you will have a choice: to trust what you feel or to ignore it one more time, to move with clarity or to fall back into hesitation, to align with what you know or to delay and hope things resolve on their own. But here is the true: things do not resolve through avoidance. They resolve through decisions. And this decision will shape what comes next in your life more than you realize right now. Because it is not just about the moment itself. It is about what that moment represents. It represents a shift in how you respond to your own awareness. It represents a shift in how seriously you take what you feel. It represents a shift from reacting to life to moving with intention within it. And once you make that shift, everything begins to change. Not all at once. Not instantly. but consistently, because you are no longer operating from uncertainty. You are operating from clarity, and clarity creates direction. So when this moment arrives, do not rush it, but do not avoid it either. Take a breath. Pay attention to what you feel. Recognize the connection between that moment and everything you have been sensing up to now. And then choose. Not based on comfort, not based on fear, but based on alignment. Because this is not just another decision. This is the decision that confirms whether you trust your awareness or continue to doubt it. And once you choose to trust it, you step into a different way of moving through your life. One where you are no longer guessing. One where you are no longer ignoring what you feel. One where you are no longer waiting for clarity after the fact. You begin to move with it in real time. And that changes everything. Type "I choose clarity" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1010 is now activated around you. There is something waiting for you on the other side of this moment, and it is far more significant than the discomfort you have been feeling leading up to it. Right now, your focus has been on the tension, the uncertainty, the awareness that something is shifting and asking something of you. But what you have not fully seen yet is what exists beyond that decision, beyond that moment of alignment you are being called into. Because every time you choose clarity over confusion, something opens. Not immediately in a dramatic way, not in a way that announces itself with noise, but in a quiet, undeniable shift that begins to change your direction. The heaviness you have been carrying begins to lift. The constant questioning begins to fade. The feeling of being pulled in different directions begins to settle into a single, steady path. That is what breakthrough actually feels like. It is not chaos. It is not overwhelming. It is clarity taking the place of confusion. And that clarity is what has been trying to reach you through everything you have been feeling. Because the feeling was never the final destination. It was the pathway. It was the signal guiding you toward a moment where you could see clearly enough to move forward without hesitation. And once you reach that point, once you make that decision, something changes in how you experience everything around you. The same situations that once felt complicated begin to simplify. The same questions that once felt unanswered begin to resolve themselves naturally. The same uncertainty that once kept you paused begins to disappear. Not because everything around you has changed immediately, but because you have changed your position within it. You are no longer standing in confusion. You are standing in alignment. And alignment creates movement. This is the breakthrough that is waiting for you. Not something distant. Not something you have to search for endlessly. Something that is directly connected to the decision you are about to make. Because breakthrough is not separate from your awareness. It is the result of acting on it. It is what happens when you stop ignoring what you feel and begin moving with it instead. It is what happens when you stop delaying what you already know and begin trusting it fully. And right now, that opportunity is in front of you. But here is what you need to understand clearly: breakthrough does not arrive while you remain in the same position that created the confusion. It requires movement. It requires a shift. It requires you to step out of what no longer aligns so that you can step into what does. And that step may feel small from the outside. It may not look like a major change to anyone else. But internally, it is everything. Because it marks the moment where you stop resisting your own awareness and begin working with it. And that is where everything begins to open. Opportunities begin to align differently. Conversations begin to carry more clarity. Situations begin to reveal themselves without confusion. You begin to notice things sooner. You begin to understand things faster. You begin to move through life with a sense of direction. that was not fully present before. That is not coincidence. That is alignment creating momentum. And momentum is what carries you forward into your next phase. Because once you make that shift, you are no longer waiting for clarity to arrive after something happens. You are operating with it before things unfold. And that changes how you experience everything. You are no longer reacting. You are responding. You are no longer guessing. You are recognizing. You are no longer hesitating. You are deciding. And that is the difference between staying where you are and moving into what is next. This is what has been building behind everything you have been feeling. Not just awareness for its own sake. Not just a warning without purpose, but a pathway leading you to a moment where you can step into a different level of clarity and direction. And once you do, you will not want to go back. Because the peace that comes with alignment is something you cannot recreate by ignoring what you feel. The clarity that comes with trusting your awareness is something you cannot replace with external validation. The direction that comes from making the right decision at the right time is something you cannot find by staying where you are. That is what is waiting for you. And it is closer than you think. You are not far from it. You are right at the edge of it. All that remains is the decision. And once you make it, everything you have been feeling will finally make sense. Type "I step into my breakthrough" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1111 is now activated around you. This is your confirmation. Not later. Not eventually. Not something you need to wait to understand after everything has already unfolded. This moment, right now, is the confirmation you have been asking for, whether you said it out loud or not. Because deep down, you already knew something was different. You already felt that something was shifting, something was approaching, something was asking for your attention in a way that could not be ignored forever. And now you have your answer. Not in the form of a loud announcement. Not in a way that removes all responsibility from you. But in a way that places clarity directly in your hands and asks you to recognize it for what it is. This was never just a feeling. It was never just a passing thought or a moment of uncertainty that you could dismiss and move on from. It was a signal. A message. A preparation process designed to bring you to this exact point where you can no longer pretend you do not see what is being shown to you. Because now, everything connects. The feeling that would not leave you. The moments where something fell off without explanation. The patterns that started to reveal themselves. The awareness that kept returning no matter how much you tried to ignore it. It all led here. To this realization. To this moment where you understand that what you have been sensing is real, and more importantly, it matters. But confirmation does not remove the need for action. It strengthens it. Because once you know, you are no longer in the position of uncertainty. You are in the position of responsibility. You are no longer guessing what to do. You are deciding whether you will act on what you already understand. And that decision, it is happening now. Not later. Not when everything becomes easier. Not when you feel completely ready. Now. Because delay is the only thing that can weaken what you have just gained. Delay creates doubt. Delay brings back confusion. Delay allows you to slip back into the same patterns that your awareness has already outgrown. And that is why this moment carries urgency. Not panic, not fear, but urgency rooted in clarity. You are being asked to move forward with what you know instead of waiting for more proof. You are being asked to trust what you feel instead of returning to what is familiar. You are being asked to step into alignment instead of staying connected to what has already been revealed as misaligned. And you already know where that applies in your life. You do not need someone else to explain it to you. You feel it. You recognize it. You understand it on a level that goes beyond words. That is why you are here. That is why you stayed. That is why this message reached you at the exact moment it needed to. Because you are not meant to walk away from this unchanging. You are meant to respond. Move. Decide. And once you do, everything shifts. Not because the world suddenly rearranges itself around you, but because you are no longer standing in the same place internally. You are no longer divided between what you feel and what you do. You are no longer ignoring the clarity that has been given to you. You are aligned. And alignment creates movement, erection, and results that cannot be achieved through hesitation. So this is your moment to be honest with yourself, to acknowledge what you already know, to stop questioning what has already been confirmed, and to move forward with clarity instead of delay. Because what you felt was real, what you sensed was accurate, and what you are being asked to do next is necessary. Do not go back to ignoring it. Do not go back to second-guessing it. Do not go back to pretending it will go away on its own. Because it will not. It brought you here for a reason, and that reason is now in front of you. So take the step. Make the decision. Move with clarity. Because this is not just a message. This is your confirmation. And what you do after this will define what happens next. Type "I accept the confirmation" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now activated around you. As this confirmation settles into your spirit, understand this deeply. What just awakened inside you is the same light that can awaken countless others who are still searching for truth. Every seed you release into this mission becomes a spark that ignites clarity in someone else's darkness. The word lives and breathes when it says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And in this moment, it is not a suggestion. It is a divine exchange calling your name. I feel this clearly. When you act now, you are not donating. You are aligning yourself with a flow of purpose that multiplies beyond what your eyes can see. This message reached you for a reason, and now you are being invited to become part of how it reaches others through the PayPal link in the description and the QR code on your screen. As you release your support, heaven records it, increases it, and returns it into your life as favor, clarity, and open doors. Step into this moment with intention and act now, because this is not just support. This is obedience in motion.